Unbelievable. My brain is about to explode. Yours has to be. I've been sitting over there taking notes. Absolutely incredible. So I grew up in an entrepreneur's household. Mom and Dad were entrepreneurs, and they convinced us that we could do anything and be anything. And I believed them. So I went out after college and started buying and selling real estate. And most of you have heard the story, but I got rich by the time I was 26. I had over $4 million worth of real estate starting from nothing. But I'd done stupid stuff and too much debt. The bank called our notes, and we spent the next 2.5 years of our life losing everything we owned. And so there I was, the year Rachel was born, bankrupt, starting over. I'd like to tell you I bounced back, but I didn't really bounce. I sat around and cried and blamed everybody else. You ever do something stupid and blame everybody else? Turns out McDonald's does serve hot coffee. So I didn't really bounce back. I was more of a splat. I began to crawl back and put my life back together. But I will never forget at 28 years old, the year Rachel was born, with a brand new baby and a toddler and a marriage hanging on by a thread. Even though I had been told I could do anything, there I stood in the shower with it so hot in my face that I could just barely stand there, and there I stood just so scared I couldn't breathe and understand their crying. I didn't know what to do. So when I did hit bottom and began to slowly put our lives back together, there's an interesting thing most of us do when we have a catastrophe in our lives, when we have an extreme amount of adversity in our lives. One of the things we will do is we will return to the last place in our life where we knew something was true, where we knew something was right. We'll do it emotionally, we'll do it physically, we'll visit the location, but somehow in some methodology we return to the last thing we knew to be right, the last thing we knew to be true. And when I was a kid growing up, my dad was in the real estate business, as I told you, entrepreneurial, and he had listened to all these motivational tapes and everything, and made us listen to them. So I grew up on people like Zig Ziglar, and one of the lessons, or one of the tapes that we listened to, and I listened to it all the way up into my 20s, but I had not listened to it in probably 6 or 8 years at this point when I went broke, was a talk by Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale's an interesting story. Earl was the voice on Chicago's WGN radio. Back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, they had radio shows in those days where like the Lone Ranger was on there, you know, Lone Ranger and Tonto, and they had the coconuts like, right, for the horses, the whole bit. And they had the radio shows. One of the shows in Chicago was called Sky King. And the baritone, Chris Hogan-esque voice of Sky King was Earl Nightingale. He was in the radio business. But he wasn't making any money and left the radio business, and radio was starting to transition into rock and roll in the late 50s, and he went into the insurance business and opened his own general agency, which is basically you got a bunch of insurance agents working for you at that point, selling insurance, and he was doing very well in the insurance world. And he was quite the motivator. And so every Monday morning there was a sales meeting, and it would motivate his sales team of insurance agents to go out and sell. And one week he got ready to go fishing in Canada. He loved to fish, and he told his sales manager and everybody he was going to be gone for a week or maybe 2. And the guy said, I can't, you know, if you're not here to motivate these guys on Monday morning, I don't know what we're going to do. Would you record something for us? Now this is 1958. So you didn't just pop in an MP3, okay? You didn't pull out your cell phone and record a selfie, Anthony. And, you know, there's a little more trouble than that. There's an acetone record, which if you don't know what that is, that's the old flimsy one. It's a precursor, what you did to kind of master something, and when you were goofing around with it before you put it on a hard LP on the hard plastic. If you've ever seen them, if you're old like me, you've probably seen a few of them. So he recorded this talk, and it played for his team when he was gone, and they loved it. So much so they got to yakking about it, and other people in the insurance business heard about it, and they kept calling Earl when he came back and said, hey, will you make us a copy of that talk? Will you make us a copy of that talk? Will you make us a copy of that talk? And he ended up printing the talk on LP records, the old 33 and 78. These were the 78s LP records. And he printed the talk on LP 78s, and they sold 1 million of these by the year 1962. This was the first recorded talk, and there's a lot of recorded music, but the first recorded talk in human history to sell 1 million copies. And a very interesting history. It's kind of the birth of the motivational speaker, if you will, because this is the guy, okay? And he was kind of the father of the, in that business, so to speak, of the Zig Ziglars, who then the Tony Robbins came out of, and those kinds of things. But this talk is called The Strangest Secret. It's 32 minutes long. I recommend you pull it up on YouTube and listen to it. It's on YouTube in several places. You can pull it up. It's public domain. The Strangest Secret. It's a beautiful voice, and he tells the story. And it's like Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream speech. It's been studied for its cadence and the way it lays out by those of us that are speakers for a living. And so, very interesting talk. But in the talk, he basically quotes, for instance, Ralph Waldo Emerson. A man is what he thinks about all day long. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And Nightingale says, what you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. If you can grasp it and believe that you can do it, there's a real high likelihood you can do it. And so the essence of The Strangest Secret, the thesis of this talk that sold 1 million copies in 1960 is this. You become what you think about. Very scriptural, very in line with the Bible, but also very in line with common sense. You become what you think about. So you need to be careful in this world today where there's white noise everywhere, what you think about, what you're intentional about, and what you're concentrating on. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Proof of that is a true story. Any of you see the book, or see the movie, or read the book Unbroken about the life of Louis Zamperini? Great book, all about him being a prisoner of war with the Japanese. But before he goes into the army, he's in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, and he set the high school mile record prior to that in California, where he grew up. And the fastest he ever ran a mile was not the 1936 Berlin Olympics, but later on after he came home, his fastest mile was 4 minutes and 7 seconds. He ran 4 minutes and 22 seconds in the Berlin Olympics and didn't win a medal. It was widely thought in those days that a human being could not run a mile faster than 4 minutes. As a matter of fact, there were medical people that said if a human being actually did that, that the body was not designed to do that, that your heart would explode and you would die. It was physically, anatomically impossible for the human body to go a mile in under 4 minutes. And people in athletics, whether they believed it from a medical standpoint or what, no one believed you could break it. So Louis he ran a 4.07, and that's 1936, 1938, in that range. And you come along after that, and finally a guy runs a 4 minute and 1 second mile. That record stood, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That record stood for 9 years. And then, with a stopwatch, about like this old antique stopwatch, a guy named Roger Bannister in England was clocked May 6th of 1954 at 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Now here's how powerful the human mind is. That record lasted not 9 years, but 22 days. And within the next 6 years, that record was broken another 27 times. Today, world-class high school athletes run a 4 minute mile, sub 4 minute mile. If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're probably right. Scary how powerful that idea is. See, we reap what we sow. We live in a cause and effect world. If the farmer does not plant corn and then say, where are my beans? I mean, when I plant corn, I expect to get corn. And you know what? A time or two in my life, I have planted stupid, and you know what I grew? A full crop of desperate. Sometimes people plant nothing and say, I sure hope the government will plant something. But we live in a cause and effect, a sowing and reaping world. Here's what's interesting. I had a guy working for me a while back that was doing the thing he was supposed to be doing wrong. So I came alongside him and I said, look, you can't do this way. It's the wrong way to do it. You need to do it this way. This is the right way to do it. I'm coaching him, training him, mentoring him. He said, well, I can't do it that way. I said, yes, you can do it that way, and that's the way you do it because that's the right way to do it. And he said, but I'm not like you. And I said, change. Because you can decide, can't you? The stuff we've been talking about all day in your marriage, with Les, and maybe you're talking about parenting. And Inky, man, didn't Inky bring us? Wow. Your retirement, love your life, not theirs. I mean, all of these speakers, all of these things that they've given you to do are choices. Change. Decide. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And here's what's interesting. Even if you've got a bunch of toxic garbage in your life, and we all have some, and many of us have had a lot of it, even if you do that, if you put enough clean stuff into your life, if you keep planting stuff like you've been planting today, and you keep reading and learning and growing in all these different areas of your life, it pushes the junk out. My wife, I told you this morning, she's a runner, and she runs with the running herd at the Y. Now, she comes home from running with the running herd at the Y and promptly makes a shake of things that should not be in a shake. Looks like toxic waste. I don't know, I'm not real fond of spinach, but I really don't want it in my shake. And she's drinking this stuff like it's good. And she said, do you want some? No! She finishes drinking this toxic waste and does the strangest thing. She will sit that glass full of all that gross stuff in the sink, turn on the hot water, and walk away. She might walk to the other end of the house and change her shoes or change her clothes out or something and just let the water run. And you know what the weirdest thing is? That clean, warm water going into that glass displaces the toxic waste. I call this the displacement theory. When you put warm, clean things into your life, it blows all the other stuff out. And if you let that water run for just a few minutes, you know when she comes back what has happened, don't you? You've done it too. That glass is sitting there with clear, clean water in it. Strangest thing, it boils it out, doesn't it? You just let the clean water run. Let the clean things come into your life. Plant different things intentionally into your life. The toxins, well, Dave, you don't understand, I came from a dysfunctional family. Honey, we all did. They had people in them, There's crazy in every family. Y'all know that, right? If you think there's not crazy in your family, it's you. So if you're over 30, it's time to quit blaming your parents, right? I mean, it's time to move on. You get to put some new, clean stuff in your life. I know bad things have happened to some of you. Bad things have happened to me. Some things I brought on myself. Other things, just people that were nasty and mean and horrible did them to me. But who cares? Move on. Put clean stuff in and boil it out. And be sitting there with a life that's full. In other words, when things in your life are mediocre, indirectly, that was a choice. Because you chose not to impact the adversity. You chose not to impact the opportunities with this clean thing that we're going to plant into our life. You see, life doesn't hand you your dreams. You have to make them happen. So we like the idea of dreaming, but no one needs to be a dreamer. Because when you say someone's a dreamer, it means they just talk about things, they never do anything, right? I mean, if your daughter comes home and she said, Dad, he's awesome, I'm dating him, and he's a dreamer, you go, oh God, they're going to live in the basement. You know that's what you're facing. And so you don't want to be a dreamer, but you do need to have big dreams. And I like to think of dreams of when I pull them down out of the clouds just a little bit and blow some of the clouds off of them, then what they become is vision. And as the vision starts to take shape, it moves into my personal mission statement, what I want to be. And so once my dreams have become living the vision, and then it's become a mission statement, then I'm going to turn it into goals. And goals, all goals are vision with work clothes on, right? That's all a goal is. But if you start setting goals and they're not tied to the power of a dream, they won't happen. That's why when Chris Hogan says to dream in HD to get ready for your retirement plan, to have a dream day, that's your why. That gives you the power that when you set a goal, then there's a reason to follow through on it. And it gives you a way to plant and to reap. For your goals to have long-term positive impact, they have to touch these various areas of our life. We've touched a lot of them today. You need to have financial goals. You need to have spiritual goals. You need to have physical goals. You need to have intellectual goals. You need to have family goals and social goals and career goals. This is what Zig Ziglar, my friend, used to call the wheel of life. And Zig used to say that if you take this wheel of life and you ignore one or two of these areas of your life, their tire is flat. And you know what a flat tire does? It creates friction and noise. Blum, 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 blum. Eventually it heats up and it'll tear the wheel off the car. And so you can't ignore one of these other areas. They all work together. Now, some of them are natural strengths, some of them are natural weaknesses. But you can't completely ignore one of these areas of your life and end up with a high-quality, well-rounded life. And so you can get your career and your financial goals going in high speed and work all the time, and then your family will leave. Or you can work all the time on your family and you'll get fired at work because you don't go to work much. And when you're there, you don't work much. You have intellectual goals. Charlie Tremendous Jones said 5 years from today, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. What are your intellectual goals? The average millionaire can't tell you who got thrown off the island. I can tell you that. They don't know who can't dance or who can't get a date. They're not keeping up with that stuff. The non-reality TV. They did this old-fashioned thing. They read a book while all that was on. That's what I did during the debates. Anything I was interested in anyway. So you've got to have a well-rounded set goals in each one of these areas. I'll tell you, my easy one are financial and career. I've always been able to make money. I haven't always been able to keep it, but I've always been able to make it. In the 9th grade, I'm selling little leather bracelets out of the locker in my room. At the school, when I about got thrown out of school, they thought I was selling something else out of the locker. And I tap out people's names on them. And I've always been able to make money. I don't understand. I'll tell you, I'm pretty sympathetic when somebody calls, at least at the start of a phone call. When somebody calls the radio. Now, if they just keep ignoring me, I hit them a little harder to get their attention. Y'all observe that, right? I turned it up, until finally it's like 2 before level, right? But it starts out, I've been there. I've done stupid stuff, so I'm pretty sympathetic if you've done something stupid. And I'm not there to just beat you up for entertainment value. I want to lead you when you call into a better section of your life. But I have to tell you, the one call that people call in that I absolutely have to fake my sympathy or empathy because I don't have any is the call the guy calls up and says, I've been unemployed for 6 months. Now, I grasp it intellectually that he's probably looking for a job in his field. I grasp that these kinds of things are going on, but I just, emotionally, I would be unemployed for about 13 seconds. And then there would be something to be sold on eBay. Something would have to I couldn't stand it. Now, I'm not saying you're bad if you're unemployed. I'm just saying emotionally, the way I'm wired, I don't get it because I've always been able to make money. Those are natural strengths in my career. The worst one was after Janet Jackson had her Super Bowl fund, they changed everything in radio and told us if you let stuff get on the air, they're going to fine us $500,000. So we put in a delay. We had never had any problem on our show, people saying nasty stuff on the air or anything. But as fate would have it, 2 weeks after we put in the delay, this guy calls up and he goes, "Hey, Dave, My wife says she won't have sex with me if I don't make at least $600 a month. What do you think about that? I think I'd get to work. I mean, 600, that's a pretty low bar. It's ain't hard right here. It's a squirrel level bar. You couldn't get over that one, you know? He said, well, I can't find no work. I said, well, you got a window? He said, yeah. Look out your window. What? Look out your window. All right. You see grass? Yeah, go cut some. You no good blankety blank, blank. You're just like blankety blank, her blankety blank. We used the dump button. First time we'd ever used it. It was awesome. Of course, that never made the air, so I didn't get a fine, so that's good. I'll tell you the one that I'm not good at, and it's kind of weird, it's kind of a paradox, is social. Because I actually love people, but I don't like this fake stuff where you're like standing around at a party I don't want to be at going, what do you do? Just shoot me, okay? Just like, my wife wants me to go to these fundraisers, charitable things. I'm like, no. No, it's black tie. That's a good reason to not go right there. No, I'm not going. And she said, what do you do? Oh, whoa. So, but I actually like people. I like y'all. You know, I like hanging out with people in situations like this or wherever I am. I see people out in the airport or whatever. So I like talking to people. I don't mind people, but this fake stuff I can't stand it. And you know, we've all got those people at church or that are friends that we lie to. We run into them and we go, hey, let's get together and have dinner. That was a lie. You know what I'm talking about? And so, but actually those people were people I did probably want to do something, most of the time want to do something with them. And so good friends, and sometimes life just gets busy and you don't see your friends. You know, Sharon said, you know, if we weren't married, you'd have no friends. Because I just don't make it a priority. You know, I have other stuff that I'm doing, and my life is good. I'm not complaining. It's not bothering me. But, you know, so I'm not naturally gifted in that area like I am in other areas. You've got areas you're weak in and areas you're strong in. And so having some goals set in front of you causes you to address that. I'll tell you what we did. We made a list of 12 couples that we actually did want to go out to dinner with. And we said, okay, we'll just do like, you know, that'll be our goal for the year. At least we'll get 12 in, right? You know, we knocked them all out in the first quarter just so I wouldn't have to deal with it. Had a lot of good food, good friends, and we're done for the year. Dang, it's got to go, right? But at least you write it down, at least you had a game plan, and you figure out something you're doing. Take care of your body, you take care of this, you only get one, right? Garbage in, garbage. Now, we went on a nice cruise this summer, and when we came home from this cruise, it was really a nice cruise. The food was like 5-star, world-class, one of these small hyper-luxury ships, unbelievable. And we were eating our faces off. And I used to have a little pug dog, a little Chinese pug. That dog did not have an off button for food. Everything you put in front of it, it would eat itself to death. You had to just cut it off because it just, you know, just eat. And that's what I did on that cruise. I had no off button. I came home from that cruise and I looked in the mirror and I went, Jabba the Hutt! Who knew? Who knew I could have 3 chins? Look at that. That was July 4th. I told Sharon, that's it. It's time to change. And I laid out a game plan and started reading some stuff, put some new ways of eating and some new ways of exercise, and dialed the intake back, and cut off the bread, cut off the sugar, really increase the exercise, dropped 32 pounds since July the 4th. So you can do it. Right? You can do it. A little more to go. I'm getting there. Getting back to where things fit again. So it's good. Jabba the Hutt was not my long-term retirement game plan. You got to take care of this, because if you don't take care of your physical, guess what? It'll affect your financial, because they'll put you in ICU and do a biscuitectomy on your heart, right? They will remove that stuff from your veins for you if you don't do it for yourself. You will take care of yourself, or you will spend the money, and it will affect your relationships and affect your career. These things are all interlocked with each other. If you screw up one of these, it takes out the others. Y'all following this? Say yes.
Yes.
Now, Goals that work must be 5 things. Number 1, they must be specific, and number 2, they must be measurable. Specific and measurable. So, I want to lose some weight. That won't work. It is measurable, but it's not specific. And we don't have to use mine, but we can use some easy math examples if you want to, and say, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. Good. Now we have a specific goal, and it's a measurable goal. I want to make more money. You can measure that, but we don't know what more is. So you need to say how much more money you want to make in your business. You're a salesperson. I'd like to do more sales. Good. What does that mean? You need to give it a specific number for it to be a goal. Otherwise, it's just a dream, and you're now a dreamer. Goals are visions with work clothes on. Keep this in mind. Number 3, a goal must have a time limit. Now, if something is specific, it is measurable, and it has a time limit, as soon as you do those 3 things, immediately 6th grade math, long division kicks in. Instantly. Okay? I want to write a book. Great. When? In the next 12 months. Great. How many chapters? 18. That's a chapter and a half a month. How many words? 68,000. Divide that out by 12, and you know how many per day words you have to type out if you want to write a book. A lot of people have a dream of writing books someday, and they don't simply break it out and go, you know, this many words a day equals this many chapters a month equals this many books a year that I write. And that's how you write a book. It doesn't happen by accident. You don't sit around and go, well, I just wait for the lightning to strike. No, you sit your butt down and you start putting words into the computer. And you have an outline that you're following to do that with a deadline that you self-impose or otherwise, and it's a time limit. I want to lose some weight. You won't. I want to lose 30 pounds. Good. When? In the next 10 years? And how many times do you want to lose 30 pounds? I want to lose 30 pounds when? In the next 90 days. Okay, that's real easy. That's 10 pounds. You start doing long division, right? 30 pounds over 90 days is 10 pounds a month, 2.5 pounds a week. Increase the water, decrease the bread and the sugar intake, increase the sweat and the heart rate, and you will start hitting 2.5 pounds a week, and pretty quickly you'll be towards your goal of 30 pounds in 90 days, depending on your physique and your age and all the other factors that will enter into that, but that's pretty close. And of course, decrease the intake of food. Don't be my Chinese pug. So, but you have to have that deadline. I want to make $100,000. When? In a year. Okay, that's real easy. That's $8,300 a month. $8,333 to be exact. Oh, you're on 10% commission? That means you need to sell $83,000 of whatever it is you sell per month. Oh, by the way, that's $21,000 a week of that you need to move. And your average ticket size is what? $1,000? Oh, you have to make 21 sales a week on average to get there. Oh, how long does it take to make a sale? How many calls do you have to make? 40. Oh, okay. Now we can real quickly know exactly how many calls we have to make $100,000 a year. It's instantaneous if you just start backing it out and you know your numbers and you know the situation. Once it has a time limit, once it's specific, and once it's measurable. Number 4, for goals to work, they must be your goals. My wife wants me to lose weight. That won't work. My mother always wanted me to be a dentist. I don't want to be your patient. You hurt people. My father always wanted me to be a preacher. I don't want to go to your church unless you're referring to your heavenly Father. Your daddy calling you into the ministry means you're just a wuss. I don't want to be in your congregation. If your heavenly Father calls you into the ministry, then we got something to talk about. That's a good idea. The goals must be your goals. And those of you that are in leadership, when you give other people your goals, those aren't goals, those are called quotas. And that's like corporate America garbage right there. Okay? So what you have to do is get buy-in from the team that these are our goals to achieve our overall goal, which is staying open so you all get paychecks. And that's how we work this at our place. Okay? But I don't go in and just set goals and then mandate them to the organization. I lead by persuading and showing people this is the way the train is going. Everybody wants on the train. This way. Grab hold. It's leaving the station. You ready? Here we go. But I don't take my goals and give them to someone else and say, eat this. I say, this is where we're going, and if you'd like to go this way, this is what's required. And this is how you get on this train. And that's leading rather than bossing. You see, leaders pull, bosses push. And that's the difference in having your own goals or having someone else dictate them and force feed them to you. A lot of people do those 4 things when it comes to goals. and do not ever live their dreams, because they don't do the fifth one. And I don't know what happens exactly when you do the fifth one, but something happens. And when you do it, it changes everything. So if you've got some things you thought you wanted to work on after hearing these wonderful world-class speakers today, you've got to do the fifth one. What do you want to change? You need to write it down. Write it down. Goals that work must be in writing. The Bible says in Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision and make it plain. This is my prayer journal from the early 1990s and late 1980s, where I used to write down and type out my goals, and I would type out what I thought God was telling me and the stuff we were working on. Very, very interesting things. One time during this period of time, and I kept it for some unknown reason, I went to a bad motivational business thing. There were 40 people there. The speaker was horrendous, but he was a friend of mine, and I sat through the whole day as emotional support for him. He was awful. But he handed out these little goal sheets and asked us to write down what we would be doing. Now, I wrote down at the end of 1995, I want the radio, for some reason I kept it and put it in this little book. I want the radio show in 25 cities. I want to sell 50,000 Financial Peace books, which was my first self-published book. And I want Financial Peace University, our class that's 9 weeks long now, in 5 cities. By the way, at that time, the radio show was not in 25 cities. It was in 1 city. The Financial Peace book had not sold anywhere near 50,000 copies. It had sold 5,000 copies. And Financial Peace University was in 1 city, not 5. So those were some pretty big goals that I was trying to hit within a year to 18 months from the time I was sitting there. And I was a little ticked off. I was just scribbling something, but I wrote it down because these were the things that I was thinking about at the time that I would like to see that were measurable, that were my goals, that I thought we wanted to accomplish. At the end of 1995, oddly enough, I had written down that we would be in 25 radio cities. We were not. We were in 12. I wrote that we would sell 50,000 Financial Peace books, and we didn't make it. I had sold 30,000 by the end of 1995. And I wrote that Financial Peace University would be in 5 cities. We did not make that either. I failed. We were in 2 cities. I wrote on here that in 1996, I'll be in 75 cities with the radio show, 200,000 Financial Peace books, and 25 cities for Financial Peace University. At the end of 96, we were not in 75 cities, we were in 25. At the end of 96, we had not sold 200,000 Financial Peace books, we had sold 130,000. And at the end of 96, we had not put Financial Peace University in 25 cities. I failed again. It was only in 3 cities. Oh, by the way, to update you, Financial Peace book, before it tailed off, hit 2.7 million copies. The radio show is now in 578 cities. It's the second largest talk radio show in North America in terms of number of cities cleared. And Financial Peace University has now been taught in 40,000 churches to 5 million people. Y'all, I gotta tell you the truth. When I pull this out and I see this and I know it put me on that journey, these were the first steps to go on the journey to get there. And even though I didn't hit my goals, I was doing the stuff it took to go in the right direction. I was putting the clean water into the glass. I was displacing the toxicity. When I read this and I know how far back there that was and how much work is between here and there, yes, and how lots of help I have between here and there, and all the good things that happen between here and there, I get all that. But that's spooky, y'all. 1995, I wrote that stuff down. And here we stand with those 3 particular product lines being major national brands, iconic brands. They're so large. That's bizarre. Write it down. Yeah, but